What happens when a Hollywood icon walks onto a daytime talk show stage expecting polite applause, but instead finds himself staring into a carefully disguised ambush? What happens when old wounds, public narratives, and live television collide with no script to save anyone? Stay with this story till the end, and before it unfolds any further, subscribe to Live Narratives, hit like, and comment below, because what you're about to hear didn't just silence a studio, it ignited a storm that no one saw coming. The applause starts warm, practiced, almost cheerful. It rolls across the studio like a wave that's done this 1,000 times before. Johnny Depp steps out, dressed simply, dark jacket, rings glinting under the lights, that familiar half-smile hovering between charm and caution. To the audience, he looks calm, relaxed. But beneath the surface, something else is moving. A tightness in the shoulders. A pause that lingers half a second too long before he waves. This isn't his first interview. This isn't even his first controversy. But today feels different. The set of The View is bright, almost aggressively so. White panels, pastel accents, the illusion of comfort. The hosts sit in a neat row, cue cards stacked, coffee mugs steaming like props in a carefully staged play. Whoopi Goldberg leans back, neutral as ever. Sunny Hostin flips a page. Sarah Haynes smiles politely. And then there's Joy Behar, leaning forward slightly, eyes sharp, lips curved in a smile that doesn't quite reach them. Johnny takes his seat. The chair feels firmer than he expected. The opening pleasantries glide by. Compliments about his career. Mentions of his latest project. Laughter at a harmless joke. Johnny responds smoothly, voice soft, almost musical. He's been here before. He knows the dance. Answer, deflect, charm. Keep it light. Keep it moving. But Joy is watching him closely. There's a moment, small, almost invisible, when the energy shifts. It's when Joy tilts her head and lets the silence stretch, just a fraction longer than necessary. The audience doesn't notice yet. Johnny does. So, Johnny, she begins, her tone conversational, casual. You've spoken a lot about truth lately. About being misunderstood. Johnny nods. I think truth has a way of surfacing eventually. Joy smiles. Does it? A ripple of soft laughter passes through the crowd. Johnny chuckles lightly. In my experience, yes. Sometimes painfully. Joy taps her card against the desk. Because some people would say the truth already surfaced. Loudly. Publicly. The air thickens. You can almost hear the lights buzzing. Johnny's smile tightens. Just slightly. People say a lot of things. And juries decide things. Joy adds, her voice still calm, still pleasant. Millions of people watched that trial. Many felt it wasn't about justice, but about power. About silencing. A murmur rolls through the audience. Someone shifts in their seat. The camera cuts briefly to Whoopi, whose expression has gone unreadable. Johnny inhales. Slowly. Deliberately. I don't believe seeking to tell one's story is silencing anyone, he says. I believe it's survival. Joy raises an eyebrow. Even when that story paints others as liars? Johnny's eyes flicker. Not with anger yet, but with something deeper. Fatigue. The kind that comes from years of explaining yourself to people who've already decided who you are. I never asked anyone to believe me blindly, he says. I asked to be heard. Joy leans back now, folding her arms. But you were heard. Everywhere. Some would argue you were celebrated. Johnny's voice drops a register. I was dissected. The audience grows quieter. The polite clapping, the murmured reactions, they fade. This is no longer a routine interview. This is a confrontation unfolding in real time, and everyone in the room can feel it slipping beyond control. Sunny Hostin clears her throat gently. Johnny, I think what Joy is asking. But Joy lifts a hand, interrupting without looking away from him. No, let him answer. Johnny turns fully toward her now. The smile is gone. You know, he says softly, there's a strange thing that happens when people think they know you because they've watched you suffer on a screen. Joy's lips part slightly. We're talking about accountability. And I'm talking about humanity, Johnny replies. The word lands heavy. A woman in the audience gasps. Another leans forward, eyes wide. Social media feeds begin lighting up, fingers typing furiously as clips are recorded, captions already forming. Joy exhales through her nose, a sharp, dismissive sound. Johnny, with respect, powerful men have used that word, humanity, for a very long time to escape consequences. That's when it happens. Johnny's jaw tightens. His fingers curl against the armrest, rings pressing into leather. When he speaks again, the softness is gone, not replaced by shouting, but by something far more dangerous, a calm conviction. With respect, he says, I lost everything. My career, my reputation, my name. If that's power, I'd hate to see weakness. Silence. Not the awkward kind, the total kind, the kind where even the audience forgets to breathe. Joy opens her mouth, then closes it. For the first time, she seems unsure which direction to move. Whoopi finally leans forward. All right, she says carefully. Let's take a breath here. But the moment has already escaped its cage. Johnny looks out at the audience now, eyes scanning faces, not as a movie star, but as a man standing in judgment once again. I didn't come here to fight, he says. I came here because I was invited to speak. Joy meets his gaze. And I'm speaking too. Yes, Johnny replies quietly. You are. The camera pulls back, capturing the frozen panel, the stunned crowd, the tension vibrating like a live wire. Somewhere offstage, a producer whispers urgently into a headset. And no one, not the hosts, not the audience, not Johnny Depp himself, can predict what's about to happen next. Because this was only the beginning. The silence doesn't break. It stretches. It grows teeth. You can feel it pressing against the walls of the studio, crawling into every camera lens, every microphone, every living room watching live. The kind of silence that makes producers sweat and hosts reconsider every word they've ever said on air. Johnny Depp sits perfectly still, eyes forward now, as if he stepped outside the room to steady himself. Joy Behar, meanwhile, shifts in her chair, clearly not accustomed to being the one who disrupted the rhythm without immediately reclaiming it. Whoopi Goldberg clears her throat again, this time louder. Okay, she says, half smiling, the professional mediator kicking in. This is clearly something people feel strongly about. Johnny nods once, not looking at her. That's the problem, he says. People feel. They don't listen. Joy exhales, leans forward again. Johnny, you're on a show that talks. We ask hard questions. And I'm answering them, he replies, turning back to her. But answers don't mean much if the verdict's already been written. The audience reacts audibly now. A low hum of agreement, discomfort, confusion. The camera cuts to Sarah Haynes, who looks torn between jumping in and staying silent. Sunny Hostin watches Johnny closely, studying him the way a lawyer studies a witness. Joy taps her pen again, faster this time. Let me be very clear, she says. No one is denying you went through something. But when women come forward, Johnny raises his hand, not aggressively, just enough to stop her. Please, he says. Please don't turn this into a slogan. The word slogan hits harder than any insult. Joy's eyes flash. That's dismissive. No, Johnny replies, voice steady but strained. What's dismissive is reducing complex human lives into talking points that fit neatly between commercial breaks. A sharp intake of breath ripples through the crowd. Whoopi leans back, arms crossed now, watching like someone who knows this train isn't stopping. Johnny, she says, you understand how this looks. Johnny finally smiles, but it's not charming. It's tired. I've spent years understanding how it looks, he says. I'm still trying to understand why that matters more than what actually happened. Joy shakes her head. Because perception shapes reality. Only if we let it. Johnny fires back. The audience reacts louder now, some clapping, some murmuring disapproval. The divide is visible, almost physical. Two narratives colliding in the same space, neither willing to yield. Sunny finally steps in. Johnny, do you acknowledge that your fans, some of them, used your trial as entertainment? Johnny turns to her. Absolutely. And it horrified me. Joy jumps on that. But you benefited from it. Johnny's head snaps back toward her. I survived it. Joy's voice rises just a notch. At whose expense? That's when Johnny stands. Not abruptly. Not dramatically. He simply rises from his chair, the movement slow enough that no one can accuse him of aggression, but decisive enough that every single person in the studio stiffens. The audience gasps. A producer's voice cracks through a headset offstage. Johnny places his hands on the desk, leaning forward just slightly, not looming but present. Fully present. At the expense of my children, he says quietly. At the expense of my mother's memory. At the expense of every night I wondered whether it would have been easier to disappear. The room freezes. Joy opens her mouth, then stops. Even she seems caught off guard by the rawness of the moment. Johnny continues, his voice steady but trembling just beneath the surface. I didn't win. I endured. The camera cuts to Whoopi. For the first time, her expression softens. That wasn't the question, Joy finally says, but the edge is gone now. No, Johnny agrees. But it's the answer. He sits back down. The audience is dead silent. No applause. No murmurs. Just the low hum of studio equipment and the weight of something that's gone far beyond daytime television. Joy glances at her notes, then back at him. So, what do you want now? She asks. Redemption? Johnny shakes his head slowly. Peace. Joy lets out a short laugh. From a talk show? From the cycle, Johnny replies. From being summoned only to be judged. Sonny looks between them. Johnny, do you feel like this interview is unfair? Johnny doesn't hesitate. I feel like it was decided before I walked out. That lands hard. Whoopi leans forward again, voice firm. That's not true. Johnny meets her eyes. Then let me ask you something. The hosts exchange quick glances. This is not how the script goes. When Johnny asks, did asking someone how they're surviving become less important than proving they deserved what happened to them? Joy stiffens. No one said you deserved it. Johnny tilts his head. You implied it. Joy's face hardens. I challenged you. Johnny nods. And I answered. The audience finally reacts, applause breaking out, hesitant at first, then louder. It's not unanimous, but it's undeniable. A producer's voice urgently whispers, we're running long. Whoopi glances toward the camera. We're going to take a break, she says, her tone measured. When we come back. Johnny interrupts, gently but firmly. I won't be here. Every head snaps toward him. Joy's eyes widen. What do you mean? Johnny stands again, this time picking up his jacket. I said what I came to say. Whoopi frowns. Johnny, sit down. Let's finish the conversation. Johnny looks at her, then at Joy. Some conversations, he says quietly, aren't meant to be finished on television. The audience erupts now, gasps, whispers, scattered applause. Cameras scramble to adjust. The director counts down frantically. Joy watches him, stunned. Walking away doesn't make you right. Johnny pauses, hand on the back of his chair. He turns one last time. No, he says. But staying silent made me wrong for too long. The red on-air light blinks, and the show cuts to commercial, leaving behind a studio in shock, a panel scrambling for control, and a moment that is already exploding far beyond the walls of the view. The commercials end, but the damage doesn't rewind. When the cameras fade back in, Johnny Depp's chair is empty. It sits there like an accusation, slightly turned, untouched coffee cooling beside it, the absence louder than any argument that came before. The audience murmurs uncontrollably now. Producers hiss instructions through headsets. The panel smiles for the camera, but the smiles are brittle, stretched too thin. Whoopi is the first to speak. Well, she says carefully, as you can see, Johnny has chosen to leave. Joy Behar stares at the empty seat a beat longer than necessary. Her jaw tightens. That was his decision. Sunny Hostin folds her hands. It was unexpected. Unexpected is an understatement. Backstage, Johnny moves quickly down the corridor, boots echoing against the polished floor. His publicist struggles to keep up, whispering urgently. Johnny, the phones are already blowing up. This is going to be everywhere. Johnny doesn't slow. It already was, he mutters. He reaches the exit. For a moment, his hand rests on the door. He closes his eyes, not in regret, but in exhaustion. Then he pushes through. Outside, reporters are already gathering. Someone shouts his name. Someone else asks, "Did you storm off?" Cameras flash. Johnny lowers his head and gets into the waiting car without a word. Inside the studio, Joy finally breaks her silence. "You know," she says, voice sharper now that the subject can't answer back, "walking off doesn't erase public responsibility." A few audience members clap. Others shift uncomfortably. Whoopi turns toward Joy. "Let's be careful," she says. "That was a lot." Joy scoffs lightly. "It was a performance." Sunny looks up. Or a breaking point. The word hangs there. Joy shakes her head. "I've been doing this long enough to know when someone's trying to control the narrative." Whoopi's tone hardens. "And I've been doing this long enough to know when someone's genuinely hurt." The tension between the hosts becomes visible now, subtle, but real. Not loud, not explosive, just a crack running through the table. The audience senses it too. Sarah Haynes finally speaks, her voice gentle. "I think people watching at home might feel conflicted. That wasn't television as usual." Joy crosses her arms. "We don't exist to make guests comfortable." "No," Whoopi replies, "but we're not here to crucify them either." Joy turns toward her. "Since when is asking questions crucifixion?" "When the questions already know the answers," Whoopi says quietly. For a split second, Joy looks genuinely stunned. The director cuts to a wide shot. The show limps toward its next segment, but the rhythm is gone. Everyone can feel it. This isn't just a bad interview. It's a fracture. Meanwhile, online the moment detonates. Clips of Johnny standing up. Johnny saying, "I didn't win. I endured." Johnny walking off the view. Hashtags explode within minutes. Some defend him fiercely. Others accuse him of manipulation. The internet divides itself neatly, brutally, efficiently. Back in the car, Johnny scrolls through his phone once, just once, before locking the screen and tossing it aside. "Same circus," he says to no one. His publicist hesitates. "Do you want to put out a statement?" Johnny shakes his head. "No." "Johnny, no statements. No spin. Let it sit." The car moves through traffic, the city indifferent to the storm it's carrying. Back at the studio, the show finally ends. The applause feels hollow. As soon as the cameras cut, Joy stands up abruptly. "That was a setup," she snaps, gathering her papers. Whoopi rises more slowly. "No," she says. "That was a human being who didn't play along." Joy scoffs. "He came in knowing exactly what would happen." "Did he?" Whoopi asks. "Because it didn't look like it." Joy turns toward her. "You're buying that?" "I'm recognizing pain," Whoopi replies. Sunny looks between them, uneasy. "This is going to follow us." Joy exhales sharply. "Good. Let it." But later, much later, alone in her dressing room, Joy replays the moment on her phone. The way Johnny's voice dropped. The way his hands trembled just slightly when he spoke about his children. She pauses the video. For the first time, doubt flickers. Across town, Johnny sits on a balcony overlooking the city lights. A guitar rests untouched beside him. He stares into the distance, cigarette smoke curling into the night. He didn't shout. He didn't insult. He didn't beg. And yet, the world is louder than ever. Somewhere, a producer drafts a crisis memo. Somewhere else, a network executive debates damage control. Somewhere online, strangers argue over a man they've never met. Johnny exhales slowly. "Still not listening," he murmurs. And as the night deepens, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was the moment both sides realized the story was no longer under anyone's control. And the fallout was only beginning. By morning, the silence Johnny left behind has turned into noise, deafening, relentless, inescapable. News channels loop the same 3 clips. Johnny standing. Johnny saying, "I didn't win. I endured." Johnny walking off the stage. Panels argue over body language like it's forensic evidence. Social media fractures into tribes, each convinced they're defending truth itself. Overnight, the interview stops being an interview. It becomes a referendum. At the network, emergency meetings stack on top of each other. Executives sit around long tables pretending this is just another PR ripple, but no one is fooled. The View hasn't just trended, it's been dragged into the center of a cultural fault line. Did we cross a line? One producer asks quietly. No, another snaps. He couldn't handle accountability. But he didn't shout. A third counters. He didn't attack anyone. The room falls quiet. Across town, Joy Behar wakes up to her phone vibrating nonstop. Messages from colleagues. From friends. From people she hasn't heard from in years. Some supportive. Others blistering. You went too far. Finally, someone challenged him. That was uncomfortable to watch. Joy exhales, rubbing her temples. She's weathered backlash before, decades of it. But this feels different. Not louder, heavier. She turns on the TV. A commentator pauses the clip right as Johnny places his hands on the desk. This, the analyst says, is the moment the interview turned. Not because of aggression, but because of vulnerability. Joy scoffs aloud. Please. But she doesn't change the channel. Meanwhile, Johnny hasn't left his house. The gate stays closed. Calls go unanswered. Even his closest circle keeps their distance, not out of disloyalty, but because they know he needs quiet more than reassurance. He sits at his kitchen table, sunlight cutting across scattered pages of old lyrics. His phone lights up again. This time he answers. It's his daughter. Dad, she says softly. Are you okay? Johnny swallows. I am now. I saw it, she says. All of it. There's a pause. He waits for the question he's braced himself for. Instead, she says, I'm proud of you. His eyes close. Back at the View, the panel reconvenes off-camera for what's supposed to be a routine debrief. It isn't. Joy breaks first. He controlled the room. Sonny looks up. Or he lost control of himself. Whoopi leans back, arms crossed. Or maybe he finally stopped pretending he was fine. Joy turns toward her sharply. You're really taking his side? Whoopi meets her gaze. I'm not taking sides. I'm acknowledging that something real happened on our set. Joy shakes her head. Real doesn't mean righteous. And righteous doesn't mean cruel. Whoopi fires back. The word cruel lands hard. No one speaks for several seconds. Later that afternoon, Joy is asked to do a follow-up interview, radio, friendly territory. She agrees. The mic goes live. I don't regret asking tough questions, she says firmly. But if people felt uncomfortable, maybe that says something about the conversation we still need to have. The host presses gently. Do you think Johnny Depp was being sincere? Joy hesitates. Just a fraction of a second. I think, she says carefully, he believes what he said. It's the closest thing to concession she's offered. Across the internet, that clip spreads almost as fast as the original walk-off. That night, Johnny finally breaks his silence. Not with a statement, not with a press release, but with a single post. No explanation. No defense. Just one line. I spoke my truth. You're free to hear it or not. The reactions are immediate. Millions of likes. Millions of arguments. And then something unexpected. A former crew member from an old film posts a quiet message. Then another. Then another. Not testimonials. Not declarations of innocence. Just memories of kindness. Of patience. Of a man who listened. The narrative doesn't flip, but it bends. Joy sees one of those posts late that night. She reads it twice. Then again. She locks her phone and stares at the ceiling. For the first time, she wonders, not if she was wrong to challenge him, but if she had been too certain of what she thought she already knew. Across the city, Johnny steps onto his balcony again. The noise hasn't stopped. It may never stop, but something inside him has. The need to convince. The need to win. The need to stay seated when his voice is already shaking. Tomorrow, The debate will continue. The headlines will sharpen. The judgments will harden. But tonight, just for a moment, both sides sit with the same unsettling realization. This wasn't a clash for ratings. It was a mirror. And not everyone liked what they saw. The days that follow don't cool the fire. They define it. By the end of the week, the clip of Johnny Depp walking off The View has been watched tens of millions of times. It's analyzed in classrooms, debated on podcasts, dissected by body language experts who slow it down frame by frame, as if truth might be hiding between blinks. Some call it courage. Others call it manipulation. Almost no one calls it forgettable. The show opens the following Monday under a cloud that hasn't lifted. The applause is thinner. The smiles are tighter. The empty chair from Johnny's interview has been filled, but not replaced. Something lingers there, invisible and undeniable. Whoopi addresses the audience early. "Last week," she says calmly, "a conversation got bigger than this table. Bigger than this show." Joy sits beside her, composed, but quieter than usual. "We're not here to resolve it today," Whoopi continues. "But we are here to acknowledge it." The audience listens. Really listens. Joy speaks next. Her voice is steady, measured. "I ask hard questions," she says. "That's my job. But I also recognize when a moment hits a nerve, not just for a guest, but for the people watching." It's not an apology, but it isn't defiance either. Outside the studio, critics note the shift immediately. The volume is lower. The certainty, dulled. Across town, Johnny watches none of it. He's in a small recording space, guitar in hand. No cameras. No press. Just a microphone and a red light. He hasn't planned to write anything, but the words come anyway, rough, unfinished, honest. It's not about Joy. Not about the show. It's about being spoken about for so long that you forget what your own voice sounds like. Later, a friend asks him if he regrets leaving. Johnny thinks for a moment. "I regret staying as long as I did." The industry responds in quieter ways. Invitations change tone. Some doors close politely. Others open unexpectedly. A director reaches out, not with a role but with a message. "I saw it. I understood it." That message means more than headlines. Joy, meanwhile, finds herself thinking about the interview when she doesn't mean to. In the makeup chair. In traffic. Late at night, when the noise finally fades and only memory remains. Not the argument, but the moment Johnny said, "I didn't win. I endured." She repeats the sentence once, just to hear it without the cameras. At a dinner party weeks later, someone jokes about the walk-off. Laughter ripples. Joy smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "Was it worth it?" someone asks. Joy pauses. "That depends," she says, "on what people heard." Online, the conversation slowly evolves. The extremes remain because they always do, but something else slips in between. Nuance. Hesitation. The uncomfortable idea that two things can be true at once. That a woman can ask hard questions. And a man can be genuinely broken. That confrontation doesn't always produce clarity. Sometimes, it just exposes fractures. Months later, a documentary teaser drops about celebrity, public judgment, and the cost of being a symbol instead of a person. Johnny isn't the subject, but his clip appears briefly. Not sensationalized. Not framed as victory or defeat. Just as a moment. A moment when a studio fell silent. A moment when a man stood up because staying seated felt like disappearing. A moment when a host realized that control doesn't always look like strength. In interviews, Johnny is asked about it less and less. When it does come up, he answers simply, "I said what I needed to say." Joy is asked too. Her answer changes over time. At first, she says she'd do it again. Later, she says she wishes the room had slowed down. Much later, she says nothing at all, just smiles and moves on. And maybe that's the real aftermath. Not cancellation, not redemption, but a permanent shift. The understanding that live television isn't just a stage, it's a pressure chamber. And sometimes what breaks inside it isn't a person but the illusion that anyone is fully in control. The studio keeps broadcasting. The headlines keep coming. The world keeps arguing. But somewhere between the noise and the silence, one truth settles quietly. That day wasn't about who won the clash. It was about who refused to keep performing pain for approval. And once that line is crossed, there's no going back to polite applause.